Thank you, and let me thank Billy for being here and for the years and years of work that he has done all over the world, in UK here, and singing songs of solidarity and talking about the needs of the working class. And Billy, thank you so much. You know, the Chinese say, may you live in interesting times. Well, we are living in interesting times and complicated times. And I love doing meetings like this. I think I probably have the world's record in Vermont for having held more town meetings just like this all over Vermont. And when I ran for president, we did exactly these same things here in New Hampshire and Iowa and all over the country. And I love doing it. And the reason I like doing it, honestly, is I think we do not have the kind of serious political discussion in this country that we need. I think you don't hear it much from politicians, and you certainly don't hear it from the media. So what I want to do today is I'm going to chat for 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to chat for a while, and then I'm going to ask you questions, you ask me questions. But I think we need some serious discussion on serious issues. For a start, I'm going to be in Manchester later, and then we're going to be in Portland, Maine, and then in Bangor, Maine. And the main point that I'm going to be making, among many others, is it is absolutely imperative for the well-being not only of this country today, but for our kids and future generations that Donald Trump be defeated. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you why that is the case, because I think you already know it. And just take a step back and appreciate it. Think of what it means to our kids and our grandchildren if we elect a gentleman who is a pathological liar. He lies all the time. I think he doesn't know the difference between truth and lies. This is somebody who has been convicted of sexual abuse. This is somebody who, in the midst of a moment when we are experiencing some of the hottest days in the history of the world, all right, where climate change is wreaking havoc, not only in America, but all over the world. He thinks that climate change is a hoax created in China. And we can laugh about it. But that means that if he is elected, forget about combating climate change, not only in America, but all over the world. The rest of the world will also give up. And fossil fuel will continue to be dominant. Carbon emissions and the planet getting warmer and warmer, all of that means. And this is a candidate, Trump, who after decades and decades of women struggling to overcome their second-class citizenship, he wants to take us back and deny women the basic right of controlling their own bodies. So for all of those reasons and more, Trump cannot get elected. And we've got to do everything we can to make sure that does not happen. But what I'm also going to be chatting about today and into the future is my strong belief that Kamala Harris, somebody I've known for many years, that she is not going to win this election, or she's going to have a really hard time unless she begins to speak forcefully about the needs of the long neglected working class of this country. It is absolutely right to talk about abortion. It is absolutely right to talk about how Trump does not believe in democracy. Absolutely right to talk about climate change and all of the other issues. Yes. But what we have got to do, and what Democrats for too long have not done, is to understand that throughout this country, tens and tens of millions of working people are struggling to put food on the table, to take care of their kids, to retire with dignity. So I think talking about those issues, campaigning on those issues, and coming up with specific solutions about these crises is exactly the right thing to do and the way to win the presidency, and I think win it big, because I think there is a huge hunger out there among working people who are asking, does anybody know what I and my family are going through? Do they know I can't afford health care? That I can't afford child care? That my kids may do worse than I am doing? So we got to talk about those issues. Let me just give you, and the concerns that I have about the political process today is if you turn on CNN or MSNBC or any of the news channels, what they will be talking about is political gossip. What the last poll was, what somebody said about somebody. But we have got to take, and I want to do it today, talk about the real issues facing America. There was talk about polls, there was a poll done by, I think it was Kaiser Permanente, a number of months ago. They asked the question, blew me away. You know what the question was? Do you think you are better off today than somebody in your circumstances was 50 years ago? You understand? You're better off today than people were like you 50 years ago. You know what the answer was? Very strongly, people said they were better off 50 years ago. And people acknowledge, hey, a lot of major medical breakthroughs, people are staying alive today that would not have been the case 50 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of, stuff like this, which is very useful. But at the end of the day, so many things are happening in our country and our world today, which are causing anxieties, mental issues, economic issues, etc. People feel worse off today in many respects than 50 years ago. Now, when you look at what is going on in America today, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question right now. All right? I want you to think hard. Don't give me the answer that was that you saw on TV this morning. What is the major issue facing this country today? Yep.
Broken criminal justice.
Broken criminal justice system is a big issue. I don't think it's the major one. I'm talking about the big ones. Yes, ma'am. All right. Discrepancies between rich and poor, income and wealth inequality. All right? Now, I happen to tend to agree with you. I'm going to tell you why. Because it touches on everything else, including criminal justice. All right, here's what you got. And again, you're not going to see this, and I want you to think about why you're not going to see it on TV tonight or read about it in the papers. It's not what the media covers. In America today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of this country, period. 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. To my mind, this is a hugely important issue. Have you ever seen it discussed on television?
No.
Who determines what are the important issues, what you will see on television? Well, who owns the bloody media? All right. You got 8 media conglomerates that determine 90% of what the American people see, hear, and read. Okay? So you turn on television, you think you got 100 channels, they're owned by relatively few, very large companies. So our job is, the first thing we have to do is to ascertain in our own hearts and our brains, what are the most important issues? So I think when you talk about massive income and wealth inequality, it is not just, oh, this guy has a private jet, I'm jealous. That's not the issue. It is that we have an economy today which is doing phenomenally well for the people on top. They are making out like bandits, and of course many of them are bandits. All right. So you have, over the last 50 years, I'm going to just lay out a few boring facts, but you're not going to hear it elsewhere. See Mesville, hear it here. Listen to this. Rand Corporation, which is, big corporation, they do studies. They did a study which showed that over the last 50 years, there has been a $50 trillion transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. Got it? So the rich and the 1%, they worry about redistribution of wealth. Bernie Sanders wants to redistribute wealth. Well, they do. But there has been a redistribution of wealth. Problem is, it's gone in the wrong direction. From the working class to the 1%. And by the way, how often do you even hear the expression working class?
Never.
So again, good thing that we are a classless society. Isn't that wonderful? Everybody has about equal amounts of stuff. We don't even hear the term, because if you use the term, it suggests that you live in a class society where there is inequality. Media and others would prefer not to talk about it. All right. So you got, on one hand, people on top love the status quo. Status quo is working phenomenally well for them. On the other hand, what do you got? You tell me, what do you got? What's going on for working class people today in America? Raise your hand. Let's get a hand right here. Yes.
No housing. Can't afford it.
Hey, Gene, how are you? I didn't see you there. You have a major housing crisis in Burlington, where Gene and I live. Unaffordable. All over the country. Every place I go, cost of housing is soaring and unaffordable. And of course, we have some 600,000 people sleeping out on the streets. Housing is a major issue. Yes, ma'am.
Minimum wage.
All right. Minimum wage, federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. It is in New Hampshire as well still, right? Yep. States around the country have raised it, but at the federal level, it is $7.25 an hour, which means it's not that many people are working for $7.25, but it means that millions and millions of people are in fact working for $10, $11, $12 an hour. And that speaks to the fact that we have working people all over this country working 50, 60 hours a week and going nowhere in a hurry. So you're right, low wages in general, and the answer obviously is to raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage. Now I am chairman of that committee that has responsibility. I brought a bill to the floor, and I'm sorry to tell you that we got zero. That was a $15 an hour. I think it should be at least $17 an hour, but even a $15 an hour minimum wage got zero Republican support. 6 Democrats voted against us. Okay, low wages is an enormously important issue. What other issues are out there, ma'am? Debt crisis. All right, let's talk about that again. And I want to take a step back. We live at a time when technology is changing rapidly and has changed rapidly. When I was mayor, Billy mentioned I was mayor of Burlington in the 80s. We had no computers in City Hall when I became mayor. I know, hard to believe. No cell phones. Remember the day we got this fancy printer, big deal. World has changed. And in order for this country to compete effectively in a highly competitive global economy, nobody denies you need a well-educated workforce. Nobody. I don't care what your politics are, conservative, progressive, whatever you are. You need a well-educated workforce to take advantage of the technologies that are out there, among other things. Right now, what you have are millions and millions of young people, middle-aged people, who are deeply in debt. For what crime did they commit? Did they go out and buy a fancy car? Did they lose their money in Las Vegas? They got an education. If you want to go to medical school, you're a young person, grew up in a family that did not have a lot of money. You know what? How much it costs to go to medical school? Anyone know? What kind of debt you end up with? You can end up with a $500,000 debt. Nurses end up with huge debts. Dentists end up with huge debts. Just kids going to college end up with huge debts. Now, when I campaigned for president, we had the position that we should cancel all student debt in America. Is my position. President Biden did not go as far as I would like, but we have canceled debt for some 5 million Americans. This is no small thing. And I talk to some people, literally. I remember a woman who was an administrator in a college in Maryland, tears in her eyes, talking about what it meant to have that student debt disappear in her life. All right. So the issue about student debt is not just the burden of the debt, it is also about people not wanting to get a higher education because of the fear of that debt, and it is the stupidity of making it difficult for people of all walks of life to get all of the education that we need. It is a no-brainer to say that we want the best educated population, and to do that, you got to open up the doors of education to all people at all times in their lives. All right, other issues. What are the working? Yes, sir. All right. One medical emergency. Again, this is an issue that is not discussed in media as well. How many major countries on earth do not guarantee health care to all people as a human right? One. You're living in it. We are spending twice as much per capita, every man, woman, and child, on healthcare as the people of any other nation. Anyone know how much we spend per person? That's what people pay out of their own pocket, Medicare, Medicaid, VA, what your employer pays. What are we spending per person on healthcare? Anyone know? Over $13,000. So for the average family of four, $52,000 just on healthcare. Is that insane or is it not?
It's insane.
And that is double, okay? Double what any other country spends. Now, if I buy a car for $100,000 or $50,000, you buy a car for $25,000. If I'm spending twice as much as you, the expectation would be my car is a lot better than your car. Is our healthcare system better than other? No. Somehow, our friends in Canada and Europe and other countries, they managed to provide healthcare to all of their people as a human right. You're in Canada, you have heart surgery, heart transplant. What's the bill when you leave the hospital a month later? Anyone know? Zero. Okay. Now here's another issue tied to healthcare, but not just tied to healthcare, which we also, you're going to hear me saying this over and over again. We don't talk about those issues. That's why I'm here. Okay? Life expectancy. What am I talking about, life expectancy? Is that an important issue? Duh, maybe it's the most important issue. All right, look, if we were to take a step back and say, all right, look, what do we want as a nation, as a world? We want people to be able to live long, healthy, happy lives, all right? Now, everybody's gonna have tragedy in their lives. Nobody can guarantee what happens tomorrow. But the hope that we can live long and healthy lives is certainly a desire that every human being in America and around the world has. How are we doing in terms of life expectancy compared to other countries? Anybody know? Yes, ma'am. Stand up, please.
49.
We're what?
49.
49th. 49th. We are what? 7-8 years behind Japan and, you know? How many years shorter are we living than other countries?
I don't know.
Anyone know that? Anyone have that fact? We're living, I think, and you check it out. I think we live 7 years longer, 6 years shorter than they do in Japan and many other countries. Now, that's one thing. So why is that? Then the second question, even more outrageous, that is never discussed. If he is in the 1% and she is working class, are they both living more or less the same length of life?
No.
You know what the gap is? The gap is over 10 years. It's an extraordinary fact. Extraordinary. People on top in America live as long as people around the rest of the world. But working class and low income people live, in some cases, 10, 15 years. Not in some cases, on average, significantly less than the people on top. Why is that? Healthcare is one factor. It's an important factor. It is not even the most important. Yes, if I am sick and I'm rich, I can go to the best doctor, get the best healthcare. That makes a difference. That makes a difference, but it is not even the major factor. It's what they call social determinants. What does that mean?
Stress.
Ah, who said stress? Talk about it.
Stand up. Don't be stressed out.
So I would think the stress of everyday life as a working class person, whether it's debt, healthcare, our children's perspectives in the future, all of those things come up as no time.
That is exactly right. Just stop and think. And we don't talk, this is never talked about. It is the daily struggle to survive. Right? You're worried that your landlord may raise the rent. Landlord raises your rent, you're gonna have to move your kids to school, you're gonna take your kid, move that kid to another school. It's a huge deal, right? You got sick. You end up in the hospital. Here's a fact, go back to healthcare. We did a hearing on this. Half, I may get my numbers a little bit wrong here, but roughly speaking, half of people who get cancer in America lose their life savings in several years. And many of them are forced into bankruptcy. Okay? An astronomical number. Take a deep breath and think about the insanity and the cruelty. Talk about stress. I have talked to people who were terribly sick, didn't even tell their wives that they were sick. Terribly sick, because they were worried about the financial implications of their illness. So imagine struggling with heart disease, cancer, and then you got to worry about whether your family goes bankrupt. That's called stress. All right? Stress is whether you go to the grocery store, you can afford to buy halfway decent, healthy food. Stress is what your kid is going to have a even lower standard of living than you do. Stress is going to a job that you hate to go to, where you hate the boss, but you go there because you need the paycheck. And maybe one of the most dramatic realities that we have seen in our lifetimes is what happened during COVID. And during COVID, you saw the class structure of America playing out in a way before our eyes that we had never seen before. If you were wealthy, you stayed at home. Maybe you went up to Vermont, you bought a nice house that you paid for by cash, and you did your work from a computer. If you were a nurse, you went into a hospital where COVID was rampant, you didn't even have the personal protective equipment that you needed, and you got sick and sometimes died. If you were a bus driver, you died. If you were a warehouse worker, you died. Tens and tens of thousands of people went to work understanding the risk during the pandemic, but they had to feed their families. All right? That's what stress is about. So we are living in a country, life is difficult. But if you are struggling every day economically and worried about the future, that stress, it's not me, it's what the doctors say, has a huge impact both on your physical well-being and your mental well-being. And simply knowing that if your kid gets sick, you don't have to worry about having to worry whether you can pay the bill or not. That you live in a decent house and you're not going to get evicted from it. That you have a job where you're treated with respect. All of that removes a whole lot of stress, allows you to breathe, allows you to live. So we don't talk about it at all. But the working class in this country today is under enormous stress. That is one of the reasons they're living significantly shorter lives than people who have money. All right, other issues out there. Yes, sir. Threat to democracy. Okay, I want to extrapolate from that. In America, obviously in Trump, you have somebody who, even in the last campaign, this is what he said. He said, the only way, this is a month, 2 months before the election. He said, the only way I can lose this election is if there is fraud. So what does that mean? It means that I can't lose the election, or I shouldn't lose the election, right? Because if there is fraud, that's illegitimate, and that's the only way I can lose. So I can't lose. And if I can't lose, then any action necessary to keep me in office or give me office is appropriate. And we saw what happened on January 6th. So it is not just in America, I should tell you. It is in many parts of the industrialized world where people are looking to authoritarian leaders for their future. Why is that?
Fear.
Fear of what? Raise your hand, I didn't see the hand. Yes, stand up, please.
When authoritarians will give you hope, they'll say that this is your problem, this other person's your problem, and I'm going to fix all of your problems.
Good, exactly right. I have a hard time, to be honest with you, listening to Trump's speeches. But being I was going to be on TV a little bit after his speech, I thought it was appropriate to listen to the damn speech. I gave up after an hour and 15 minutes. I couldn't do the whole thing. But as this gentleman said, that's exactly it. Hey, we got problems. Give me the power. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to tell you what. I'm not going to tell you what. Give me the power. I will take care of it. And by the way, as every demagogue does, these are the people who are causing all the problems. In this case, undocumented people. You know, other cases, it's Jews. Other cases, it's blacks. Other cases, it's gays. You name the minority, we got it. And they are always the cause of all the problems that the demagogue will deal with. But what are the conditions? Why are people by the millions willing to accept that irrationality? Who has thoughts on that? Why?
Ignorance.
Yep. Now, ignorance is not a good enough answer. Yeah.
Simple answers for complex issues.
All right. Yep.
They're only listening to one side of the story.
All right. They're only watching Fox, right? Yes.
They want a strong man. They basically want somebody to tell them they need.
Yeah. But why? That's what I'm at. I agree with everybody. Let me get some more hands. Yes, ma'am. They're desperate. All right. Elaborate on that.
They don't know what else to do.
Okay.
They can't figure out which way to go.
All right. They're desperate. Let's stay on that one for a second, ma'am.
There's a lack of leadership
Okay. All right. So here I'm going to tell you something that many of my Democratic friends get angry at me for saying. There was once a time in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, even up to Kennedy, maybe beyond, the 60s, Johnson, where if you walked out on the street and you said to somebody, tell me, I don't care what your political views are, which is the party of the American working class? Democratic Party, Republican Party. 90% of the people say it's the Democratic Party. Which is the party of big business? Oh, it's the Republican Party, right? That was it. If you walk down on that street today and you ask that question, what would people say? Would they say it's the Democratic Party? So I would say, and my Democratic friends, as you know, proudly the people of Vermont have said me, Washington is the longest serving independent in the history of this country. But I think one of the reasons that we're seeing the problems that we are seeing is that the pain that people are experiencing is not being acknowledged by the Democratic Party, and certainly there are not bringing forth solutions. So I caucus with the Democrats, and I think all of us, by the way, should be proud that we've made some real progress over the last many decades on breaking down bigotry in this country in many, many respects. Do we still have racism? Of course we do. But we have made real progress. Do we still have sexism in America? Absolutely. But we have made real progress. Do we still have homophobia in this country? Yeah, we do. But we have made real progress. And we should be proud of that. And by the way, Democrats have played a very active and strong role on all of those issues. But on the other issue, the economic struggle, the right of all people to be able to live their lives with a decent standard of living, live with dignity, no. Not only has there not been success, I think we are falling further and further behind. So the struggle that we're having, which really almost brings me here today, is to talk about where we are right now and where I think we have got to go. And as somebody who will do everything possible to see that Trump is defeated, as somebody who wants to see Kamala Harris win and win big, I think what we have got to do is to make it clear to the Democratic leadership that if she is to win big, and she can, she's going to have to start talking about issues of relevance to the working class of this country. What do I mean by that? Let me just give you some very specific thoughts. First of all, when we talk about an economy that is rigged in favor of the very rich, we are also talking about a political system which is absolutely corrupt. And anybody who has eyes to follow what has gone on just in the last few months, right, what does it mean? Again, the problem is when you're in the midst of something, you get used to things. But I want you to take a step back. Elon Musk says that he is going to contribute $45 million a month to a super PAC supporting Trump. All right? What does that mean? You are going to come out and vote. You got one vote. Maybe you'll contribute $20 to some candidate. 45 million, probably $150 million in a few months to the Trump campaign. Dozens of other billionaires are supporting Trump. But here's where we have to be honest. Is it only the billionaire class? Are they only supporting Trump? No. They're also supporting Democrats.
Yep.
Which leads us to begin to understand maybe why we are the only major country on earth not to have a national healthcare system, guaranteeing healthcare to all people. Maybe leads us to understand why we have not raised the minimum wage to a living wage. Maybe leads us to understand why billionaires pay an effective tax rate lower than what you pay.
Boom.
Because when you make huge amounts of money, Elon Musk is many things, but he is not dumb. And for him, $45 a month is a cup of coffee for you. He's worth, I don't know what it is, $200 billion. It's pocket change. But he gets access to, he hopes, the next president. And billionaires on the Democratic side say the same thing. There was a guy, I don't know if any of you saw this. What was his name? Reid Hoffman, I think. LinkedIn, a billionaire. He has raised $7 million for Kamala Harris, or for the Democrats, I guess. And just the other day, he was on CNN and he said, I think they should get rid of, not rehire Lena Khan. You know what Lena Khan is? She's not well known. She's head of the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. She has done an extraordinary job in taking on monopolies and big money interests. And this billionaire wants Harris to get rid of her if she's elected. And that's how things work. So what's the solution? How do you have a democracy if billionaires are contributing huge amounts of money? Am I missing something here? All right, what do you do? Raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Real campaign finance report.
Good. What does that constitute? All right, real camp. What does that mean?
Those gigantic contributions. Basically, so everybody has to go on those $20 or whatever it is campaign. Don't allow those big.
Good. Right. There are various ways that people have different ideas on it. Number one, the first damn thing to do is overturn the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. It's probably, one of the very, very worst decisions ever rendered by a Supreme Court, and is moving rapidly to undermine American democracy. I mean, you have to question, I think the reality is, you don't live in a real democracy when somebody can contribute hundreds of millions of dollars into a campaign.
That's right.
And you get one vote. That's not democracy. All right, so that's very important. All right, what else? Give me some specific, gentleman right here. Yeah.
Qualified immunity,
Qualified immunity, explain that.
meaning that prosecuting attorneys can withhold exculpatory evidence.
Okay.
Police officers can lie on the stand and not say about the day and falsify documents in other cases.
I think criminal justice is on your mind, huh? I won't even ask you why, but. Okay, all right. But I would say when I talk about criminal justice and think about criminal justice, what first thing that comes to my mind is I think about people getting ripped off by large corporations. I'll tell you one story. This is years and years ago. It's just emblematic of what goes on. I was going to be on CBS to talk about Monsanto and the role they play in agriculture. So I was going to be on, get my 7 seconds on TV. Years and years ago. Monsanto lawyers called up CBS. CBS is not a nickel and dime operation, by the way, and threatened to sue them if I was talking. And what you have is, if somebody is wealthy and commits a crime, they have lawyers up the kazoo that can stall it, that can delay it. But if you're poor, you know that there are some astounding fact. Maybe somebody can help me on it. There are huge numbers of people in jail today, in jail right now, who have never committed a crime because they can't afford bail. They've been charged with the crime. Maybe they're guilty, maybe not. All right. That's a broken criminal justice system. But the more important point, even when you talk about criminal justice, and again, I don't have all the facts right in my head, but we have, I think, per capita more people in jail than any other country. So why do we have so many people? Well, then it gets back to your educational system, it gets back to housing. You know, countries that invest in their kids and in healthcare and in housing and in education, guess what? They don't end up in childcare. They don't end up with people who are completely alienated from whom crime becomes a way of life. All right. What else? Give me some, if Kamala Harris were here, and I'll probably talk to her next week, so I'll convey your thoughts to her. What would you have me say to her? Yes, ma'am.
Women's rights and the right to our bodies.
Yeah.
All right. Kamala Harris knows that very well, and she will be, I don't have to tell her that. She knows it. All right. Yes, sir. Stand up if you could, please. Good. Okay, well, let's talk about those laws. Social Security, which was passed by FDR in the 30s, has gone a long way to allow elderly people to retire with dignity. Is it good enough? Tell me why. Why is it not good enough? Yes, ma'am?
Well, part of the problem is that ultimately was not meant to be the only way to live on this. The school thing. You're supposed to have a private pension, but most people don't have private.
Very good. All right. There was once a time when if you worked, you had what was called a defined pension plan, right?
Right.
All right. That means, when you retire, you know what you're going to get. And by and large, that is disappeared from America today. Your point is absolutely right, Webb. And I talk about a lot of the problems. One of the good things that is happening, very good things that's happened in the last couple of years, is we're seeing a rebirth of the trade union movement in America. And people like Sean Fain, who's head of the United Auto Workers, that's one of the demands that he raised, is that older auto workers, when they retired, had a defined pension. Younger ones don't. He wants to bring it back for auto workers and workers all over this country. Absolutely right. All right, Social Security. Right now in America, and I didn't know this, we did a hearing on retirement needs. I didn't even know it, I learned it. 25% of seniors in America are living on $15,000 a year or less. You believe it? How the hell do you live on $15,000 a year? I don't know. Half of seniors are living on $30,000 or less. So I agree with you that we've got to bring back the concept of a defined pension plan. What should we do with Social Security? There are 90% of the Republicans in the House want to, in one way or another, cut Social Security benefits. Anyone think that's a good idea? No. All right. What do we do? What's the better plan? Yes, ma'am. Way in the back. Yes. I'll tell you the danger of that answer in a minute. What's a better solution? Yes, ma'am.
I
Okay.
Go back to taxing people.
All right, how does that relate to Social Security? They would
Oh,
know?
I was just talking about.
All right, but I want to stay on Social Security because it's related. What is the fundamental problem with the funding of Social Security right now? Anyone know? Yes, ma'am.
Increase the cap.
All right, so here's the story. How many people know what we talk about when we say lift the cap? All right, good. All right, right now, you got somebody making $16 million a year, somebody making $160,000 a year. They both pay the same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund. So we've got legislation in that lifts that cap, taxes all income. And you know what you could do with that? What you could do, number one, is you raise Social Security benefits by over $2,000 for Social Security beneficiaries. And you extend the life of Social Security for 75 years. How's that? All right. Person just mentioned Medicare. What should we do with Medicare? What should I tell the Vice President we should do with Medicare? Does Medicare cover everything that it should cover? What doesn't it cover? All right. All right. We are good. All right, now we're moving. All right. Last I heard is that dental, hearing, and vision were healthcare needs, right? How many people think it's a good idea for Medicare to cover dental, vision, and hearing? All right. What do we do with a working family? I don't know about New Hampshire, I suspect it's not much different than Vermont. If you have a 3-year-old, childcare, I don't know, what's it cost, $20,000 a year now per kid? What does it cost? Anyone have kids in childcare right now? How much does it cost? Per kid? 24,000. That's how do, if you're a working class person, how do you pay $24,000 a year? Now there are some, each state has different subsidy programs, but that's a hell of a lot of money. What do we do? Come on, give me some policy ideas.
Universal pre-K.
Yes.
No, that would be the simplest and boldest answer. Right now, what we say is, depending on your state, is we have, free public kindergarten, right? Yep. God didn't determine that was the right thing to do it for, right? You could do it at 1, right? You could do that. That is, in my view, the proper solution. But at the very least, what we should do is make child care affordable. And I want to say something, I'll detour a little bit. There was an effort that we made, 2 efforts that we made. During COVID, we passed the American Rescue Plan, which was, to my mind, one of the more consequential pieces of legislation. It took place during the beginning of COVID. You remember, we got short memories as Americans. Remember what was going on 3.5 years ago? Right? People were not going to work. Hospitals were overflowing with COVID patients. We put $1.9 trillion. You know what we did? Do you remember that? We got $1,400 every man, woman, child. That help? All right. We extended unemployment benefits. We put money into hospitals, into schools to keep them going. And among other things, we lowered childhood poverty by 40 or 50% just by doing that. All right. So one of the things that I think we should be doing is taking what we did then, which is $300 for every kid under 17 for middle and lower income working class families, giving everyone a $300 per child benefit. Does that make sense? Yeah. We should invest in childcare, pay our childcare workers decent wages. And make sure that what we try to do in Build Back Better program was nobody would pay more than 7% of their income off the child care, which would have been used. The point of all of this is to remind us all, you're living in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. If we were a poor nation, we would have a different discussion. Hey, we're poor, we can't afford health care. We're poor, we can't afford education. We're poor, we can't afford housing. We're poor, we can't take care of children. We're not poor. We're extraordinarily rich, but we have a rigged system. So what I would suggest that we focus on in the next few months, in what is the most consequential election in our lifetimes, absolutely, is that we do everything we can to defeat Trump. We do everything that we can to elect Kamala. But at the same time, we try to build a movement and talk to each other to demand that her administration is vigorous, not only in protecting our civil rights and our civil liberties and the right of women to control their own bodies, not only on climate change and so many other issues, but in the richest country in the history of the world, all of our people should be able to enjoy a decent standard of living. In many other countries, that already exists. You know, when we talk about healthcare as a human right, in this country it sounds radical. It exists all over the world in other industrialized countries. Other countries have strong childcare systems, which are free or inexpensive. Other countries are housing their homeless and building affordable housing. You know what? The rest of the world can do it. We can do it too. Thank you all very much.